For 50 years, the galaxy had watched humanity. They observed humans laugh at small things. They saw them cry at sad stories. They watched them share food with strangers and adopt animals that served no purpose. Every species in the Galactic Concord came to the same conclusion. Humans were soft, emotional, harmless. Admiral Tae-woo stood in the Great Hall of Concord Station, surrounded by representatives from 100 different worlds. He was a calm man in his mid-50s, with gray hair and tired eyes that always seemed to be smiling. He spoke softly. He bowed his head when others raised their voices. He never threatened. He never demanded. The Thanari delegate, a tall creature with sharp teeth and armored skin, laughed openly at him during a trade meeting. "Look at the human," High Arbiter Valis said to his companions. "See how he bends. See how he smiles even when insulted. This is a prey species, nothing more." Tae-woo heard every word. He simply nodded and returned to his tea. Captain Hana Kim stood behind the Admiral, her hands folded behind her back. She was younger than Tae-woo, perhaps 40, with short black hair and eyes that gave nothing away. She wrote something in her notebook. No one knew what she wrote. Dr. Yuna Choi sat at the diplomatic table, trying once again to build bridges. She was the youngest of the human delegation, a xenobiologist who believed deeply in peace. She had spent her whole career studying alien cultures, learning their languages, understanding their fears. "If we just communicate better," she often said, "we can avoid any conflict. Violence is a failure of understanding." The other species found her charming. Naive, but charming. Ambassador Kellum of the Vorath Collective watched the humans with different eyes. He was old. Very old. And he had seen many species rise and fall across the centuries. Something about humans bothered him, though he could not say what. They were friendly. Yes. They smiled, constantly. But sometimes, late at night when Kellum could not sleep, he wondered if the smile was the whole truth. He had read their history files. He knew what they had done to each other before they reached the stars. But that was long ago, and they seemed to have changed, evolved, become gentle. Or so everyone believed. The Thanari Dominion was a military empire. They had conquered 12 species in the last 1,000 years. They respected only strength, and they saw none in humanity. Valis had risen to power by crushing his enemies without mercy. He looked at the human colonies scattered across a dozen worlds and saw opportunity. "They breed quickly," he told his council. "They work hard. They do not fight back. They would make excellent workers for our mining operations." Commander Dreth, his chief military advisor, studied the reports with more care. "They have weapons," he noted. "Their ships carry defensive systems." Defensive. Valis laughed. "That is the key word. They defend. They do not attack. They do not hunt. A species that only defends is a species waiting to be conquered." The Pale Council, the ancient ruling body of the galaxy, had no opinion on the matter. They had existed for 10,000 years. They had seen countless small conflicts between minor species. Humans were young. The Thanari were aggressive, but manageable. Whatever happened between them was not worth their attention. Lieutenant Minho Park was 28 years old. He worked in the communications center on New Busan, a human colony of 3 million people on a green world far from Earth. He had joined the fleet because he believed in exploration. He wanted to meet new species, learn new languages, see new stars. New Busan was peaceful. It had schools and hospitals and parks where children played. It had old people who sat in gardens and told stories about Earth. It had families who had never known war, and never expected to. The colony's defense grid was minimal. A few patrol ships, some ground-based shields, nothing that could stop a serious attack. But why would anyone attack? Humanity had no enemies. They had signed treaties with everyone. They had shared their technology freely. They had given medical aid to species that could not pay. Back on Concord Station, Tae Woo received his daily briefing. Trade was stable. Relations were positive. The Thanari were being difficult. But the Thanari were always difficult. Nothing to worry about. Hana Kim handed him a cup of tea. Their eyes met for just a moment. Something passed between them. Some old understanding that needed no words. The children on New Busan are starting their spring festival tomorrow, Yuna mentioned, looking at her tablet. They invited alien observers for the first time. 3 species accepted. That is good, Tae-woo said. The more they know us, the more they will trust us. Far away, in the dark spaces between stars, Wallace reviewed his invasion plans. The attack would be swift, overwhelming. He would broadcast the conquest across the galaxy to show other species what happened to the weak. Humans would serve as an example. He had studied their biology. Their bodies were fragile. Their bones broke easily. They needed sleep every day, or they became useless. They formed emotional attachments that could be exploited. They were, in every measurable way, inferior. What he had not studied was their history, not the pretty parts they shared with aliens. The other parts, the older parts, the parts they did not talk about. He did not know about the hunts that lasted for days, the wars that lasted for generations, the predator that hid behind the smile. He gave the order to begin the invasion. His fleet moved toward New Busan, where 3 million humans lived their peaceful lives, unaware that everything was about to change. In her small apartment, a teacher named Su Min prepared her classroom for the spring festival. She hung paper flowers from the ceiling. She set out treats for her students. Tomorrow would be a happy day. She did not know it would be her last. The Thanari fleet came out of nowhere. One moment, the skies above New Busan were clear and blue. The next, they were filled with warships that blocked out the sun. Lieutenant Minho Park was the first to see them on the sensors. His hands froze over his console. His training told him to send a distress signal, but his mind could not accept what his eyes were seeing. This was not supposed to happen. They were at peace. They had treaties. The first bomb fell on the Eastern District, where the schools were. Minho found his voice. He opened every channel he could reach and spoke the words that would echo across the galaxy. They're burning the schools. They're burning the schools. Then his station exploded, and he was gone. The attack lasted 72 hours. The Thanari did not come for resources or territory. They came to make an example. They wanted the galaxy to see what happened to weak species. They broadcast everything on open channels, letting every civilization watch. Families ran through burning streets. Parents carried children through smoke and ash. The old and the sick were left behind because there was no time. No way to save everyone. The screams filled the communications networks until, one by one, the transmitters went silent. Volus watched from his command ship with satisfaction. You see? He told his officers. They do not fight. They only run. They only cry. This is what I told you. Prey species. But Commander Dreth noticed something strange. Some humans were not running. Some had stopped in the chaos and were just standing there, staring up at the Thanari ships. Their faces were not filled with fear. They were filled with something else. Something Dreth did not recognize. He said nothing. Perhaps it was nothing. On Concord Station, the broadcasts reached the human delegation. Admiral Tae-woo stood in the communications room with his staff. No one moved. No one spoke. They watched their people die on screens that showed too much detail. Dr. Yuna Choi collapsed into a chair. Her whole body was shaking. She had spent her life believing in peace. She had told everyone that understanding could prevent violence. And now she watched children burn while aliens laughed. Captain Hana Kim stood perfectly still. Her face was empty. Her eyes were fixed on the screen. But whatever was happening behind them was invisible to the world. The broadcast showed a Thanari soldier holding up a human child by the arm. displaying it like a trophy. The child was crying. Then the feed cut to another scene. And another. Each one worse than the last. Tae-woo watched it all. His tea had gone cold in his hand. The smile that had lived on his face for 50 years was gone. In its place was something very old. Something that had been sleeping for a very long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Not angry quiet. Empty quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before something terrible. Recall every ship, he said. Every soldier. Every hunter we have. Every hunter. Every soldier. Hana Kim turned to look at him. Her voice was just as quiet. Rules of engagement, Admiral? There are no rules anymore. Hana nodded once. She left the room to begin her work. Ambassador Kellum of the Vorath was monitoring the situation from his private vessel. He had seen many atrocities in his long life. He had watched species destroy each other over territory, resources, pride. But something about this was different. He turned his attention from the Thanari broadcasts to the human channels. What he saw there made his blood run cold. Humans across every colony had stopped what they were doing. They were gathering in public spaces, not to panic, but to watch, to witness. Their faces were changing. The softness was draining away. Something harder was taking its place. On Earth, old men who had not worn uniforms in decades opened closets where their armor still hung. Young people who had never touched a weapon walked into recruitment centers that had been nearly empty for 50 years. Factories that made consumer goods began quiet, efficient transitions to other kinds of production. No one shouted. No one panicked. They simply moved, together, like a single organism waking up. Kellum had seen this pattern before, in ancient records from species long dead. It was the pattern of a predator recognizing a threat to its pack. A signal went out across human space. It traveled on an old frequency that had not been used since the early days of human expansion. The message was simple, just 2 words translated into every human language that had ever existed. Korean, Chinese, Arabic, Spanish, Swahili, English, and 100 others. The words meant the same thing in all of them. They touched the children. Yuna Choi heard the signal. She had stopped crying. Her hands had stopped shaking. She looked at the screen one more time, then stood up and walked to her console. She had work to do. Back on his command ship, Valis celebrated his victory. New Busan had fallen. 3 million humans dead or captured. The galaxy had seen humanity's weakness. Other species would learn from this example. They would know that the Thanari were strong, and humans were nothing. He expected fear. He expected surrender. He expected humans to beg for peace. What he got instead was silence. Every human channel went dark. Every human ship disappeared from sensors. Every human colony stopped responding to communications. It was as if the entire species had simply vanished. Dreth felt the fear first. Something is wrong, he said. They should be panicking. They should be calling for help. Why are they silent? Valis dismissed his concerns. They are hiding. Prey always hides. We will find them and finish them. But Dreth had spent his career studying enemy species. He had never seen prey go silent like this. Prey screamed. Prey ran. Prey begged. Hunters went silent. Hunters waited. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, humanity was changing. The smile was gone. The patience was running out. The predator was waking up, and it was hungry. 3 weeks passed after New Busan. The galaxy waited for humanity to respond. They expected crying. They expected begging. They expected the soft species to ask for help from the Galactic Concord. Instead, they got nothing. Complete silence. Then the disappearances began. A Thanari supply ship vanished near the border of human space. No distress signal. No debris. Just gone. Then another ship. then a patrol group, then an entire outpost on a small moon. Wallace sent investigators. They found the outpost intact. The lights still worked. The food was still warm in the kitchen. But every Thanari soldier was gone. The only sign that anything had happened was a single message written on the wall in the Thanari language. "We are coming." Commander Dreth studied the reports with growing fear. "This is not how prey behaves," he told Wallace. "Prey runs. Prey hides. This is hunting behavior." "Impossible," Wallace said. "Humans do not hunt. They have never shown aggression in 50 years. Perhaps," Dreth said quietly, "they were choosing not to." Ships that humans had officially decommissioned began reappearing on sensors. Weapons that had been banned under peace treaties were suddenly operational. Soldiers who had retired to quiet lives picked up armor that still fit because they had never stopped training. Sergeant Dae Sung had been farming for 15 years. He grew vegetables. He raised animals. He told his children stories about the stars. When the signal came, he kissed his wife goodbye, walked to his storage shed, and opened a locked cabinet that had not been opened since he left the military. His armor was clean. His weapons were maintained. He had always known, somewhere deep inside, that this day might come. Across human space, millions like him were doing the same thing. Teachers who had once been soldiers. Doctors who had once been hunters. Farmers who had once been killers. They had buried that part of themselves, but they had not forgotten it. The Thanari expected war. What they got was something else. Humans did not attack the main fleet. They did not fight in open battle. Instead, they appeared from nowhere, struck a single target, and vanished before anyone could respond. Supply lines were cut. Communications were disrupted. Outposts went dark one by one. The Thanari could not sleep. Every time they tried to rest, something would happen. An alarm, an explosion, a shadow moving in the corner of their vision. The humans attacked in shifts. One team rested while another team hunted. They never stopped, never slowed, never tired. Captain Hana Kim coordinated the entire operation from a ship that had no name. Her orders were precise, patient, methodical. She did not seek glory or revenge. She sought efficiency. She wanted the Thanari military to collapse under its own exhaustion. "They need sleep to function," she explained to her officers. "We will not let them sleep. They need supplies to fight. We will take their supplies. They need hope to continue. We will take their hope." Ambassador Kellum watched from his observation post, recording everything for the Galactic Archives. He had finally understood what had been bothering him about humans. He pulled up old Earth records and found what he was looking for: persistence hunting. On ancient Earth, humans had not been the fastest predators. They had not been the strongest. But they had been the most patient. They would chase prey for days, walking when the prey ran, resting in shifts, never stopping until the target collapsed from exhaustion. The prey always thought it had escaped. It would run, rest, run again. But every time it looked back, the humans were still there. Closer. Always closer. Never rushing. Never stopping. The Thanari were learning this lesson now. Commander Dreth found a recording on an abandoned station. A human soldier sat in front of the camera. Her face calm. Her voice steady. "You thought we were prey," she said. "You saw our smiles and our tears and thought we were soft. But we did not become the apex predator of our world by being soft. We became it by being patient, by tracking, by never, ever stopping. You can run. We don't mind. We like it when prey runs. It makes the hunt more interesting." Dreth brought the recording to Wallace. "They are not fleeing," he said. "They are not defending. They are hunting us." Wallace watched the recording 3 times. His confidence was beginning to crack. This is one soldier. One message. It means nothing. Then why have we lost 47 ships in 3 weeks? Dreth asked. Why can none of our soldiers sleep? Why do they report seeing humans in the shadows, even when sensors show nothing? Wallace had no answer. Dr. Yuna Choi had changed. The woman who had once believed in peace above all else now worked 18-hour days, coordinating psychological operations. She studied the Nari culture. She found their fears. She used them. Her broadcasts reached the Nari soldiers across the front lines. She spoke in their language, using their phrases, understanding their minds. Your leaders sent you to die, she told them. They told you humans were weak. They lied. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly. Continue fighting, and you will be hunted until there is nothing left. Some believed her. Some tried to surrender. The humans accepted them cleanly, without cruelty. They fed them, gave them medical care, treated them with dignity. Word spread among the Thanari ranks. The humans were terrifying. Yes, but they were not monsters. They offered a way out. Many took it. Admiral Tae-woo had not smiled in 3 weeks. He spent his days planning operations and his nights reviewing reports. He did not enjoy what he was doing. None of them did, but they understood that it had to be done. We did not want this, he said to his staff during a quiet moment. We gave them 50 years of peace. We showed them friendship. They chose to see it as weakness. Now, they will learn what humanity really is. The lesson had only begun. 6 months had passed since the attack on New Busan. The galaxy had watched in silence as humanity taught the Thanari a lesson that would never be forgotten. It was not a war. Wars had battles and front lines and clear victories. This was something different. This was a hunt. Admiral Tae-woo did not rush. Captain Hana Kim did not seek glory. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles, finding weak points, applying pressure until things broke. The Thanari military, which had conquered 12 species over 1,000 years, was falling apart, piece by piece. Their supply lines were gone. Their communication networks were damaged beyond repair. Their soldiers had not slept properly in months. Every time they tried to rest, something would happen. A small explosion, a power failure, a shadow moving across the wall. The humans were everywhere and nowhere. Wallace had stopped giving public speeches. He spent his days in his bunker, surrounded by guards who jumped at every noise. His confidence was destroyed. His empire was crumbling, and still, the humans kept coming. Commander Dreth had tried everything. He sent assassins after human leaders. They disappeared without a trace. He set traps with fake intelligence. The humans ignored them. He tried to negotiate a ceasefire. The humans responded with a single question. Why would we stop now? The Pale Council, the ancient rulers of the galaxy, finally took notice. They summoned representatives from both sides to discuss peace. Wallace was desperate enough to attend. Tae-woo came as well, though he brought Captain Hana Kim and Sergeant Dae-sung with him. The eldest of the Pale Council spoke first. This conflict has gone on long enough. We demand that humanity cease their attacks and return to diplomatic channels. Tae-woo listened politely. Then he spoke in the same quiet voice he had always used. You demand? We are the Pale Council. We have maintained order in this galaxy for 10,000 years. And where were you when the Thanari burned our schools? Hana Kim asked. Her voice was ice. Where were you when they killed our children? Where were you when they broadcast the murders across every channel in the galaxy? The council had no answer. You saw what they did, Tae-woo continued. You did nothing. You thought we were too weak to matter. You were wrong. This matter is between us and the Thanari now. It will end when we decide it ends. They left the chamber without waiting for a response. Sergeant Dae-sung led the ground assault on the Thanari homeworld. His forces landed far from the capital, near the main military headquarters. They did not attack immediately. They waited. Dae Sung had learned patience long ago. On Earth, his ancestors had hunted animals by following them for days, walking when the prey ran, resting when it rested, never letting it escape. The prey always thought it was safe. It never was. His team cut the power to the headquarters. Then they cut the water. Then they blocked all the exits except one. Then they waited some more. Inside the headquarters, 3,000 Thanari soldiers slowly began to understand their situation. They had food for a few days. They had weapons, but they had no way to use them. The humans were not attacking. They were just sitting there, watching, waiting. Days passed. The Thanari grew hungry, tired, desperate. Some tried to escape through tunnels. The humans had already blocked them. Some tried to fight their way out. The humans pushed them back without killing anyone, then returned to waiting. After 2 weeks, the first group surrendered. They walked out of the headquarters, dropped their weapons, and waited. Dae Sung's soldiers gave them food and water and medical care. They did not hurt them. They did not mock them. They simply processed them and moved them to holding areas. Word spread inside the headquarters. The humans were not cruel. They were terrifying, yes. But they kept their promises. More soldiers surrendered. Then more. Then more. When the last Thanari commander finally emerged, starving and broken, he found Dae Sung sitting calmly outside, eating a simple meal. "You could have attacked on day 1, the commander said. "You could have killed us all." "Yes," Dae Sung agreed. "We could have. Why didn't you?" Dae Sung thought about the question for a moment. "Because that is not who we are. We are not monsters. We do not enjoy killing. But you attacked our families. You attacked our children. So we hunted you. That is what we do when someone threatens our pack. We hunt them until they cannot run anymore." Dr. Yuna Choi arrived on the Thanari homeworld shortly after the military surrendered. She had not come for revenge. She had come to help. The Thanari civilians were terrified. They expected the humans to do to them what the Thanari military had done to New Busan. They hid in their homes. They held their children close. They waited for the horror to begin. Instead, human ships brought food, medicine, engineers to repair damaged infrastructure, teachers to help care for children orphaned by the war. The humans did not burn anything. They did not hurt anyone who did not fight back. They were efficient and cold and terrifying, but they were not evil. Yuna worked 18 hours a day setting up relief centers. She learned the names of the Nari children. She listened to their stories. She cried in private when no one was watching. "Why are you helping us?" a Thanari mother asked her one day. "We destroyed your colony. We killed your people." Yuna thought about the question. "Your soldiers killed our people," she said finally. "Your leaders gave the orders. You did not. And we do not punish children for the crimes of their parents." The mother began to cry. It was the first time anyone had shown her kindness since the war began. Far away, in his bunker, Valis received a transmission from Admiral Tae-woo. The human's face was calm, tired, almost sad. "We are coming for you now, Arbiter," Tae-woo said. "You killed our children. Did you think we would stop before we found you?" Valis did not answer. He had no words left. He only had fear. 1 year after the war began, it ended. High Arbiter Valis was found in his bunker, alone, abandoned by the guards who had once sworn to die for him. He did not fight when the humans came. He could not. He had not slept in weeks. He had not eaten in days. He was broken in ways that would never heal. Admiral Tae-woo stood before him in that dark room and said nothing for a long time. He just looked at the creature who had ordered the death of 3 million innocent people. Then he spoke. "You will face trial," he said. "You will answer for what you did. But you will receive a fair hearing. and you will be treated according to the law. That is how humans do things. Valis laughed. It was a broken, empty sound. Why? Why show mercy? I would have destroyed you all. Yes, Taewoo agreed. You would have. That is the difference between us. The galaxy expected humanity to destroy the Thanari Dominion. Every species that had ever won a war like this had done the same thing. They had crushed their enemies, taken their worlds, enslaved their people. 2. NSN. It was the way of things. But humans did not follow the old ways. They dismantled the Thanari military completely. Every weapon was destroyed. Every warship was taken apart. The generals and admirals who had planned the attack on New Busan were put on trial and sentenced according to their crimes. Some were executed. Many were imprisoned. None escaped justice. But the Thanari people were not punished. Their civilians had not chosen war. Their children had not ordered the bombings. Humanity remembered this, even when anger begged them to forget. Human engineers rebuilt Thanari cities. Human doctors treated Thanari sick. Human teachers opened schools where Thanari children learned about both species. Slowly, carefully, the wounds began to heal. The Pale Council summoned Admiral Taewoo once more. They sat in their great chamber, ancient and afraid, and demanded answers. You could have destroyed them, the eldest said. You had the power. You had the reason. Why didn't you? Dr. Yuna Choi stood beside the admiral. She had changed over the past year. The naive young woman who believed in peace at any cost was gone. In her place stood someone older, sadder, and wiser. But she still believed. Just differently now. Because we remember what we are, she said. We are apex predators. We hunted everything on our world that threatened us. We were very good at killing, but we chose to stop. We made parks for animals, reserves to protect them. We became guardians of things we once hunted. Because being strong means having the choice to show mercy. And we choose mercy whenever we can. The council did not understand. They could not. They had never been predators. They had never felt the hunger, or the thrill, or the shame. They only knew power as a thing to hold and protect. Hana Kim spoke next, her voice as cold as ever. Make no mistake, this was mercy. We could have hunted the Thanari to extinction. We could have chased every last one of them across the galaxy. We have done it before, to other species on Earth, who threatened our children. We chose not to do it here. But that choice can be taken back if anyone tests us again. The council heard the warning clearly. Ambassador Kellum recorded his final observation for the Galactic Archives. He was very old now, tired from watching history happen around him. But this moment felt important. Future generations needed to understand what had occurred here. Let the record show that humanity is not what we believed. He spoke into his recorder. For 50 years, we saw their smiles and called them weak. We saw their tears and called them soft. We saw their kindness and thought it was submission. We were wrong. And, he paused, gathering his thoughts. Humanity is a predator species that chose to become something else. They chose peace. They chose cooperation. They chose to build rather than destroy. But the predator never left. It was always there, sleeping, waiting. When the Thanari woke it up, we saw what humans truly are. They are not the gentle creatures we imagined. They are killers who learned kindness. And they are more dangerous than any species we have ever encountered, because their restraint is a gift they give us freely, a gift that can be taken back. Let this serve as a warning to any species that considers testing human patience in the future. Do not. Taewoo returned home after the war. He went back to Korea, to a small house outside Seoul where his grandmother had once lived. He planted a garden, He drank tea in the morning and watched the sunset in the evening. He did not speak of the war. Hana Kim visited him sometimes. They sat together in silence, two old soldiers who had done terrible things for good reasons. Neither felt proud. Neither felt ashamed. They felt only the weight of what they had been forced to become. Dae-sung went back to his farm. He held his children and told them stories about peace, not war. He hoped they would never have to learn what he had learned. He prayed the galaxy would remember. Nan. Yuna stayed on the Thanari homeworld for 3 more years, helping with reconstruction. She made friends among the people who had once been enemies. She learned their songs and their stories. She taught them human games that made children laugh. Slowly, she began to believe in peace again. A different kind of peace. Earned peace. Real peace. In every human city, memorials were built for the victims of New Busan. 3 million names carved in stone. 3 million lives remembered. And beneath the names, in 100 different languages, the same words were written: "We choose peace. Do not make us choose otherwise." The galaxy read those words and understood. Humanity had shown them both faces now. The smile and the snarl. The open hand and the closed fist. They knew which one they preferred. They would not forget. The stars continued to turn. Species rose and fell. Empires grew and crumbled. But no one ever attacked human children again. No one was that foolish. Humanity returned to their quiet lives. They made art. They shared food. They adopted animals that served no purpose. They smiled at strangers and cried at sad stories. And somewhere deep inside, the predator slept, waiting, always waiting.